Thank you very much for being with us in our workshop. This workshop is a result of work that we are trying to do in Southeastern Europe as a small working group of IENE. And we are talking about a GreenWeb, created as a small platform of working on transport ecology in this area of Europe. As we mentioned, we created this group in Făget, the place that yesterday we have the field trip and the meeting. And for those that they didn't participate in the field trip, we have to say that it was a really great day for us. We decided and concluded that this was the longest ever field trip of IENE in all conferences. We were all the day in a really nice active mood without being tired. And according to the hopes that we had, we finalized our trip just before the midnight. So it was really a nice long trip. So I have to say that this is also part of our work, part of GreenWeb and this IENE working group, because Save Green is a child of this activity, it's a child of this group of people that are active in Eastern and South Europe. And today we would like to discuss, to see what's the future, what we have done more or less until now, what we are doing now, and what we have to do in the future. Because the last 2 years, we have another big chapter in IENE duties, let's say, IENE activities. And today we have again the Bern Convention with us. In a while, Jogan Kelly from the Bern Convention will make a short presentation because the challenges are in front of us. We faced, as we have referred in this conference, the case of Kresna Gorge, and we have the Bulgarian delegation here, and thank you very much. And it's really nice that we are finding common steps to go on, and this is the subject of our, let's say, discussion today. But now I would like to invite Ergan to make his presentation, and we'll come back to see 2 special case studies. One, the Bulgarian case of the Kresna Gorge, and one from Greece, which is the Egnatia Highway. So please, Ergan, you have the floor.
So first of all, hello to everybody, and thank you to IENE for having me today. I wish I could have personally attended this event, but it was unfortunately not possible. We're really busy at this period. So with the Bern Convention, we started collaborating with IENE a couple of years ago, and it's been really interesting and useful for us, especially as we've been able to work directly with some of the experts on transport and biodiversity projects. Before I go into that, I would like to firstly give, and as brief as I can, background on the Bern Convention and what we do, just to provide some context. So what is the Bern Convention? Well, it's a regional treaty for conservation of wildlife and natural habitats established about 43 years ago with 51 member states, which includes virtually all of the European continent, as well as some states in Africa. And the convention can be a particularly useful tool as it enables cross-border cooperation on conservation issues, which is an essential aspect as nature knows no frontiers. It also empowers civil society to act towards the protection of their local habitats and species and to become integrated within decision-making. And it tries to take a holistic approach involving all relevant stakeholders and aiming for solutions based on flexibility and compromise. So what exactly are we talking about in terms of the activities we do? Well, as you can see here, there are quite many different tools we have, which broadly fall into the categories of standard setting or monitoring. But for today's panel, I'm just going to focus on 2 key programs, the Emerald Network of Areas of Special Conservation Interest and the Case File System, which includes on-the-spot appraisals. So the Emerald Network, very briefly, is the Bern Convention's pan-European network of protected areas, which has been partly established, or is in the process of being established in 18 non-EU countries, notably 5 in the Western Balkans of Southeastern Europe. Although it's worth pointing out that none of those 5 have officially adopted any sites yet. They have still a candidate status, and it has been that way for some time in some cases. And in order to have officially adopted sites, they would need to improve the database of those areas, which includes also increasing capacities and undergoing scientific seminars to evaluate the sufficiency of the sites. So of course, the EU equivalent of Emerald Network is Natura 2000, and the overall goal of both is to have a network of areas which are protected right across Europe, including vital ecological corridors. And this is, of course, where we have the link with possible conflict with infrastructure development. So how do we deal with these issues? Well, one of the best tools we have which allows civil society to have its voice heard is the case file system, which is a sort of compliance mechanism. So it allows civil society to signal any alleged violation of the convention to us. And once a complaint has been logged, the convention takes action to enable a democratic process of finding solutions to the issues. This happens through dialogue, establishing facts, possibly involving other international organizations, and in certain cases, an on-the-spot appraisal, an OSA as we call it, conducted by an independent expert can take place in the site concerned, where the expert will try to hold meetings with as many local stakeholders as possible to collect the best possible information from the widest group of voices. And an on-the-spot appraisal results in a recommendation to the government concerned. But it's important to maybe mention that the purpose of an OSA is more than just about that piece of paper. It's also about bringing together the different stakeholders in a dialogue. So this process is equally as important, I would say, as the so-called result of the recommendation itself. And just very briefly, some notable case files and OSAs which we've had related to infrastructure and nature conflict in Southeastern Europe, which you can see on the screen. And we had just a few weeks ago an OSA in Albania concerning the construction of a new international airport at Vlora, which is just about 150 kilometers from Tirana. So here a possible argument is why not develop, for example, a high-speed rail connecting Tirana with coastal and the southern parts of Albania. But probably our most relevant case today, as Lazaros mentioned earlier, concerns Kresna Gorge and the Stroma motorway in Bulgaria. So I'm not going to go into the details so much here, but basically the process started all the way back in 2001. And if you think about it, back then, Bulgaria's current Natura 2000 sites were still actually Emerald Network sites. So this process anyway has resulted in 2 on-the-spot appraisals, the most recent of which took place just last year. It was online, and it led to pretty good results in terms of the government subsequently taking steps to involve the non-governmental stakeholders in different working groups to find solutions. Well, this case demonstrated a very interesting trade-off. On the one hand, you have this gorge, which is a vitally important migratory corridor for species. On the other hand, the gorge is one of the only viable road connections between Bulgaria and Greece. So it's definitely an interesting case. I think just to conclude, I can mention one of the key aspects that we find in these cases is the fact that while international organizations and international experts can provide assistance, guidance, best practice, at the end of the day, it's really up to the local stakeholders to find solutions in a multi-stakeholder and transparent way. And that's the challenge that we're facing to ensure that nature protection can be integrated into infrastructure development. And the opportunity that institutions like the Berne Convention have is to help bring together these stakeholders to hopefully encourage this participatory approach. So thank you very much. I hope I was quite brief, and of course I'm ready for any questions you might have later.
To continue with the presentations and then to open our discussion, starting receiving questions from the participants.
I'm Niki Vumvulaki. I work for Egnatiados SA, which is a company belonging to the Greek state. I'm a civil engineer, civil environmental engineer, And what I'm going to present you is our whole 20 years experience from biodiversity and motorway. We have prepared this together with Lazaros, who is a consultant for Egnatia Odos SA for a long period. And I'm talking about the whole experience we've had all these years in a special section of Western Macedonia on Egnatia Highway that we encountered with fragmentation problems concerning the brown bear. Egnatia motorway is an old Roman motorway, an old Roman road that connected Constantinople with Rome. And along that ancient road, the new motorway is constructed, which is our network is about 1,000 kilometers long, together with the vertical axis. So we have to deal with the coexistence problem, motorway and the environment. Where we have all these problems, it is on the linkage zones and the corridors, and not in Natura 2000 areas. So it's a conflict of green and grey infrastructure all the way. What about our environmental overview, the 20 years environmental overview of Egnatia motorway? The whole design of the motorway started in the early 90s, and we have this problem with in the Pindos range mountainous area since 19-something. There has been a long procedure, a long-term procedure, including legal implications and negotiations with NGOs, because this area in Western Macedonia was an area concerned very, very highly concerned for the environmentalists because of the existence of brown bear. It was not a brown bear habitat, but it was in between several other areas where brown bear was living. After all these years, this conflict lasted about 15 years until we came with a final solution, with a final routing of the motorway. We found out that it was important, all this delay was because of a serious deficit in terms of the inclusion of environmental and biodiversity issues all along the way, and that the procedure of receiving, we had a deficit in the procedure of receiving the public opinion, environmental stakeholders during the strategic planning of the motorway. This is the area where we had all the conflict. It is about 3 sections of the motorway, and each one, it is with 3 different cases. Each one was was suitably coped with. In all cases, we had bear-car collisions. We had increasing bear fatalities. One that is in the blue, the circle in black, it is the section Panagia Grevena, where we had a prevention strategy because we coped the problem since the beginning, since its design. The blue one is the vertical axis where we was dealt with mitigation measures. And now we have to deal with another part of the motorway, which is the section Sciati-Stakozani, the green one, that we have to apply all the lessons that we have learned so far. And we have to say that, you know better than me, that the population, the wild animal populations is a dynamic situation. So when we first started, we had problems in the black area. Then we started with the blue area, and now we have problems in the green area. So it's something that keeps changing. What is our experience and what we have learned from that? First of all, Yeah. We applied the IENE principles for sustainable linear transportation infrastructure, but what I keep is the yellow cases, the yellow principles. Any case, a unique case. This is something that Lazaros likes a lot. He's been talking about that since the beginning. I like the multidisciplinary cooperation that we have applied a lot. The inclusion of permanent maintenance of mitigation measures in the budget during operation, which is very important. Environmental supervision and monitoring in all phases of the project are also very important. Otherwise, you might do more mistakes than you normally do. And the culture of learning is very crucial, because what experience we have had, we have to show them and teach our colleagues as well. What did we lose in the previous years of all this conflict? We lost time, we lost human resources, we lost money, we had legal implications that cost us time and money. We had danger in funding loss due to European legislation. And of course, we lost many bears. In that blue section that I showed you before, we had 18 casualties, bear casualties, in 5 years. So it's a lot of casualties. We would avoid all that if we had a prevention system all the way from the beginning. But also we have to take into consideration that the dynamic situation of wildlife populations, as I said before, and also the climate change that changes a lot of things all the way. What did we gain from our experience? We gain mitigation measures that we have all our experience is based on those mitigation measures. Experience on policy and environmental actions. And apart from other policy and actions, we have special studies, mainly the last years, that concern the evaluation of existing structures of a motorway and special improvement measures. More about that I will speak in the session after this one, which is about the life-safe crossing, that we are partners. But for now, let me tell you some things about the experience on the technical characteristics of wild fauna passages that we've had, and concern the kind of fauna in the area, that is the passages that you have to choose for wild fauna depends on that, the openness index, which has to be big, the position of the passages in the area, the formation of vegetation at the passage entrance, the existence of water. There you can see in the second photograph, there are bears playing into a culvert. They haven't written all these messages, but they are playing in the water. We have another specific issue is that you have to see the land use of the area, and if the structure will be used by wild fauna, and the fencing that leads animals to the passage. Some special experience examples that I wanted to share with you. All this time we have practical mitigation measures, and what we have learned about from that. During the design of road, hydraulic and climate change and connectivity issues have to be taken into account. All of them conclude to larger openness index because of the climate change. Secondly, management of roadside vegetation is crucial, is necessary. Maintenance of infrastructure is also crucial. It is about technical and environmental supervision. Here there are some examples that I wanted to show you. For example, what do you do when you have a fence running across a trench when you have water, and what do you do about that? We had the last months we had an accident of a bear crossing this trench that you see on top. He entered the motorway and was killed. And we said, okay, when we constructed the fence, we knew that the fence is over there, but there was this hole for the water to pass. And after the accident, we had to see what do you do in such cases. So we ended up with the last photo that you see there. It is a removable piece of fence that can be removed so that to clean the trench, and then you put it in place. Another thing that we had to cope with was we have put along the motorway this big 3-meter height fence that you see in the second photo. But, okay, we put it, but then we saw that we can do some specific interventions to ameliorate the way that you connect the fence with the structure. For example, in the third photo, you can see how we connected the fence to the structure so that the rest of the structure can be used as an exit ramp for animals. So all along this way, we have been learning from our mistakes. Typical mistakes of the design or construction of wild fauna passages. To recognize our mistakes is very crucial, and to transmit that to other people. So non-use of terrain relief for the construction of bridges and fauna passages, that is quite a mistake, problem. The construction of fauna passages and non-operational sites not used by animals is another problem, another mistake that one should see from the design of the motorway. And constructional defects that permit animals enter the motorway and increase the possibility of an accident. That is another thing that there you should need a supervision, environmental supervision throughout the operation of the project. Some points for further discussion is the use of exit structures, as I showed you before, for trapped animals. Proposals or a manual for the attractiveness of existing or new passages and culverts. This is something that we have worked with within the LifeSafe project. Monitoring of the use of fauna passages is very important. And also, we always have to know that the dynamics of animal populations require interventions in later stages of an operational transportation project, so that you have always to have in mind that there's something that can be changed. Finally, what is the need for coexistence? So we need legal precautions in order not to have all these problems with a delay. Early and intense public consultation, multidisciplinary involvement during first draft of project, cost-effective measures, change of attitude towards the design of roads through time, sustainable management of transportation projects, international experience, innovations, and the interdisciplinary approach and collaborations. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. So let's see the Kresna Gorge case now, which is kind of a different approach, because in Egnatia we started with strategic policy issues, and now we are discussing details, how to build the fells. It's important to see the case of Kresna, because this will open the...
I will tell you this story, which already continues too many years. The Kresna Gorge is quite near to the region Opa. It's too fast. Well, it's not changing here. Okay, we'll look at that. Okay, I will look there. Don't worry, don't worry. So, Kresna Gorge is situated in southwest Bulgaria, and it is part of Trans-European Transport Network, connection between Vienna, Sofia, Thessaloniki, after that Athens. But it's also Natura 2000 site in both directives. Both directives, Habitats Directive, it's an emerald site as well. Really, there is very high biodiversity there. So obviously, because this transport corridor is now developing, there are quite important issues to be resolved when there should be construction of a motorway. It's already almost finished in Bulgarian part. This is the only section which is still not constructed. And also in future has a high-speed railway. But it's in future. Taking into account Natura 2000, you know we should establish and understand conservation priorities of the sites according to Article 4 of the Habitats Directive. The most important, there are two most important priorities for this site. So why we created this site and why it's so important for the coherence of the network. First is that the gorge is something like a bi-corridor from south to north. The gorge itself, the bottom of the gorge, for a number of species and habitats. And it's a very interesting functioning because, in fact, for many species, this edge between riparian habitats and slopes is quite important. It's part of their home range. And if these habitats will be some way fragmented and cut by barriers, then these deteriorate the habitat. And the second important role of the gorge for the coherence is its role as a bi-corridor for large carnivores between mountains east and west from the gorge. You can see that these are wolf and bear. In future, probably lynx will return to the area. And when we are talking, just to show you, there was an wolf, which is young wolf, so it spread it at that time. It has no established home range. How it crossed the gorge so many times looking for new home range for itself in the vicinity. So it was born in the mountains east of the gorge in Pirin Mountain. So he passed a number of times through the gorge, I think 12 times, yeah? Before it finally find his home range, his territory in the mountains west of the gorge. The biggest problem for us is that if we want to protect the corridor for bears and wolf, we need to really create necessary mitigation and necessary defragmentation. This is possible. But the problem is that we have one possibility. If the motorway will be through the gorge, we cannot mitigate the impacts in the gorge. Two specific conditions, and if, because road authorities are attempting to use existing road as part of the motorway, but existing road cuts through the whole length of the gorge, exactly the riparian and slope habitats, in fact create barrier effect because of mortality, because of facilities, and this is mitigation which could not be in any way mitigated. I will give you one example. We had the monitoring in 2000 and 2003 together with National History Museum of the road mortalities, and it was evident how the habitat is functioning. For example, for a number of reptiles, the riparian habitat is breeding habitat. They're going there to nest their eggs in more wet and more shallow habitat, not on the dry and very hot slopes. For example, green lizard, it's a common species, that's why it was very visible. Rare species is not possible to take so easily for short monitoring the functioning, but it was very indicative what happened with the green lizard. In autumn months, in October, huge amount, hundreds individuals of small juvenile green lizards died on the edge of the road facing the river, hundreds. This was then. Now they are not there already. They're already depleted completely. This is a green lizard, extremely common species there. So the fact that we observed huge decrease in road mortalities together with the increase of the traffic between 2003, 2004, and 2013, 2014, there were monitorings in both periods, shown that the impact is really very strong, and really all small species like of reptiles, amphibians, small mammals, even bats are affected by this depletion in their populations. For example, green lizards in the past were hundreds, several hundreds encountered each year. Now, 20, 30 individuals per year are dying in the gorge. So it's a really serious impact. And it's not possible to, in the 80% of the length of the gorge, it's not possible to build working underpasses. The terrain is steep, and these animals, they're not climbers. So they cannot go in direction up, down if they want. They should use such facility. So it's just not possible, technically. There are alternatives, however. This is a clear case where there are alternatives. Here, the red line is showing the alternative which avoids the gorge from east, where is the habitat of bear and wolves, but could be mitigated. Sufficient number of facilities for defragmentation, good fencing, fencing from noise and light in certain areas, and this is possible alternative, and it does not affect in any way the gorge and the biocorridor in the gorge. Of course, the brown line through the gorge do not provide possibilities for, if you will use existing road, which is all the length on the ground, on the steep slope, cutting the slope. It's not possible both to mitigate impacts on the valley, also to mitigate the impact for large carnivores which could cross the gorge. And there is another one alternative which is not here. It is on the western part, which is a full tunnel. So both three options from technical and financial point of view are feasible. That should be quite clear. Of course, the most cheapest is to use the existing road, but bringing us to quite serious problems. We should say also something more about this case. This is the case not only for nature conservation, but also a case how to protect the local people and how to protect the safety on the road. Because this is a motorway, trans-European motorway. If we have no local road, which will divide local traffic from transit traffic, accidents are, yes, that will happen, people will die. Local people will have no access to villages, to agricultural lands, and the only alternatives which provide this opportunity are to bring motorway outside of the gorge and to leave the existing road as a local road. In fact, this is what Berne Convention recommended in 2002. It is already more than 20 years ago. 20 years. That was the first recommendation. Berne Convention was made at that time. Now we are continuing arguing what we should do. In the last several years, we have quite important achievements. First, as Owen said, there was on-spot appraisal of the Berne Convention and a recommendation which was adopted last year. And it's a very important recommendation because it stressed the need of democratic decision, consensus decision, including all stakeholders. It's extremely important because when we have democratic process, then arguments are those which has power in decision making. But if you have closed undemocratic process, then the only argument is argument of power. And it's completely the opposite. And also we have European Commission which launched 2 horizontal procedures, infringement procedures, where the Crescent Gorge is part of them. One, because of the lack of proper designation of Natura 2000 sites, and the second one is because of low quality of appropriate assessments in Bulgaria. But, never mind, there was positive development in Bulgaria. There was so-called democratic government for 7 months, which worked till 2 months ago. And it started work and to implement Berne Convention in certain extent. For example, there was a successfully working group for defining conservation objectives of Natura 2000 sites, and it finished its work, but everything other is in a stuck. And now, again, we have negative political changes, and again, there is no any communication between NGOs, government, etc. Still, we have no real independent quality EAA. All alternatives outside of the gorge so far were never studied seriously, never even planned seriously. Only preliminary design was made for them, so just a line on the map and nothing else. So never assessed seriously. Still we are fighting, again, to achieve and to implement European legislation in the right way. Just to explain, because saying something about what we can do, we should understand the political situation in countries like Bulgaria. These are not democratic countries. Probably other countries in the region with similar past also have similar problems. But Bulgaria also is a very specific country, where probably is the only country from the EU member states where Russian secret services are operating directly. They're directly creating oligarchs, directly creating parties, directly influencing media, court, everything. These are Russian secret services. So just to understand what is the problem in a country like Bulgaria, what we can do. For example, we as people from citizen society. From our point of view, regional cooperation and initiatives in that direction are extremely important, because alone we have no chance in front of this. So cooperation, and we are, with big wish, will help to all other countries to resolve their problems. We will support them, we will write letters, what necessary. So any type of networking, it's very important. So there was an initiative now to create a regional group for the region here in IENE. This is very, very important for us. Otherwise, we're alone, alone. Democratic solutions, extremely important. As I told you, without that, we have no chance to put professional arguments in front of political, of any type arguments, in front of them, and really to take professional decisions. If we have democratic process, then we have already power of arguments. Work with the conventions is crucial, and Berne Convention, from our point of view, is the most important now, because it really works and really promotes democratic decisions, as even the European Commission is not doing. So it's extremely important. Just look at, for example, fragmentation of the Convention for Cristian-Remus from 2021 to see that it's really working not only for protection of nature and for taking right decisions in terms of construction of motorways, etc., but for democracy. And we should help Convention to provide good examples in our countries, but also the opposite. Convention can help us in our countries. And finally, EU. It's a very crucial player, because they give money for that projects in many of our countries. And that's why very important. What we would like to see is that prevention principle is applied. I mean prevention principle, not to go after the violations and after that to launch procedures after already motorway is built in a wrong way, after destruction already happened, but to do that before, and also not to apply salami approach, not only to EIA procedures, but also to financing procedures. Because now in Cristian-Remus, for example, we have clear case, okay, DG Environment is working quite strongly on the issue of lack of assessment of cumulative impacts, but the other directorates are financing project piece by piece, and now all motorways constructed with European money, cumulative impacts are in field, but we have problem in Cristian-Remus. So these are quite important things, and let's have hope. When we are not dying, we are becoming stronger. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you. I think all the agenda is in these two presentations. Just to start the discussion, I would like to play with two different, let's say, levels. One is about numbers and one about words. We heard that in Egnatia we spent 20 years to build a good motorway, modern, and build a fence. In Kresna, after 25 years, they are still to find a solution. But talking about numbers, we have to go to Netherlands. We have here Hans Becker. In 2018, the IENE International Conference was organized there because the Netherlands celebrated the completion of the 15 years defragmentation program. They complete a full national defragmentation program in 15 years, Western Europe, and here, Eastern Europe, we spend the same time to not find a solution or to find, let's say, some kind of half solutions. So, and this is the question that we have to deal today. What we have to do. We are all here in the Eastern and South Europe. We are fighting for biodiversity. We belong to the order of biodiversity, Anders. And we have to see what the next step. We started with some ideas in the budget, as I said in the beginning, but now we have tools, we have more experience, we have some good cases as people here from around Carpathian Convention. We have Ivo from Czech Republic. A lot of work we have done in the area. We have the Carpathian Convention with us. Today, we have in our panel also the Bern Convention, which is a part of the official representing the biodiversity. So, and we have to see what our roadmap, what we have to do the next day. IENE is here, as we said from the beginning. IENE conference has this as a motto, how to balance the connection of people with the landscape, and I think this is our future of work. So we would like, first of all, to see if you have any kind of question about the presentations, and then just after to open the discussion of proposals, ideas of what we can do as a concrete steps. And I can just, in my mind, separate, as we discussed with Elena and Andrei and Petkov during the lunch. Let's separate what we have to do with money and what we have to do with our money. Because if we start to say that we have no money, it's very difficult to do. But the IENE's ideas and role is to start with what we can do without money. What are the next steps? On Friday evening, IENE conference in Cluj-Napoca will be finalized. On Monday, what we have to do? Please, questions, comments, feedback. Each other.
I'm Eugene O'Brien from University College Dublin and RDS Company. I guess the cheapest thing we could do is education. So if we have no money, let's spread the word. So we need to invite the people with good experiences, perhaps the Dutch, for example, to come to the other countries and talk about it. We have had similar experiences in Ireland. We have had motorway projects that were massively delayed and became very expensive. And maybe you need to make the mistakes to learn, but it would be nice if we could try to avoid it.
Yes, I agree. This was the reason that always in IENE we want to have a IENE conference from this side of Europe. And this can be a starting point. And today we heard that there are some curriculum started already in Europe and much far in Asia. And we are really happy that we can see progress on that. Hans.
The example of the Netherlands you mentioned is only a part of a history of 50 years. So we started already in the 60s. So it is building up a long time.
So we are faster than you.
Exactly. Point one. Second is, it is crucial that in the whole project you have to cooperate. Who is here a civil engineer? There are only a few. You have to bridge the world against ecology and civil engineering. And it is not only by pressing on one solution. That starts already with a beer and to understand each other. They both have their goals, their things to do. There's no civil engineer going to his or her work and saying, I like to destroy nature. No one. They also have kids and grandchildren, and they want to tell also what they are doing. And that's part of their work. I think it is quite important to realize the people behind the work. Otherwise, you are only make war among each other. And it is crucial to understand each other. And what Eugene is saying, education. Education is to the civil engineers. Education is to the ecologists. Education is to the big public. Education is to the politicians. Take a mayor, take a minister out in the field and show him what's going on. Give him a lizard in his hand. Things like that are crucial to understand the importance of wildlife. And so also to importance that it is going on. In the Netherlands, we already noticed that a lot of common birds are decreasing. That message have to go on to all kinds of people. The bear is on the top of it, but the whole layer under it, insects, the mice, the small birds, are crucial as well. And that has to be in balance.
Just to build on Hans's idea, I know that Niki and Lazaros, you were fighting each other at some point on this particular highway. So I think that this is key, you know, to cooperate with each other. And now you are on the same side, actually. So the first question is how you managed it, so that I don't know, you can be an inspiration for other countries, because it's clear that, you know, conservation and transport sometimes fight against each other. And the second question, if after these 20 years of experience of building the highway and so on, if there is any voluntary change, let's say, from the authority side to build from the very beginning, or to plan from the very beginning a sustainable linear infrastructure. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Well, I didn't have the time to speak about the arguments that I didn't have the time to speak about the arguments that we initially had with Lazaros and me. Now we work together very well, but at the beginning, 15 years ago, the NGO Arcturus, where he worked, I spoke about the legal implications for 15 years of one part of the project. They had turned to the European Commission, the European Court, anyway, everywhere they could, turned to, in order to stop this part of alignment of the motorway. What happened then? Unfortunately, it is a matter of people, unfortunately. And what you asked, I'm very sad to say so, but if it's not that, it's a matter of people, really. Because if the education has not passed to the colleagues, to the society, to build a new idea of how to build a motorway, then nothing happens. To tell you the truth, there's a new part of a highway that we're designing right now. I'm not involved in that project. And I don't say that because I'm not involved, but I know that other people in the same company as I am, the only thing that matters for them is that we don't go to court. So they give some solutions, but in order that we keep things going and not give real solutions. And I'm very sad to say so. I tried to give some examples that we succeeded, but the ones that are not optimistic, the truth is that I didn't show you. But it was a question, and thank you for asking.
Petko, Andrei, who else? Oh, then others.
Well, I can't give you any answer on what to do on Monday, but I have been worked in Scandinavia, and perhaps we Scandinavians are different, I don't know. But when you had came to a situation that, which is usually the situation when a road is to build, there is a long planning already ongoing above the head of the stakeholders. It's professionals that plan. And then you end up in a discussion about the solution. So in long term, I think we have to change the entire planning situation. And there are some principles that I know works, and that is, the first step is to agree about the problem, not to start to discuss the solution, but agree about the problem. We have a problem, we can agree on making a solution. What could that solution be? That we don't discuss it in the beginning, just agree about the problem. And you can divide this also into further steps. We have to agree on what data should we use to describe or define this problem and so on. The next step is to discuss what is our target? What is it that we want to achieve? And you have to agree on this step first before you start to discuss the solution. What is a solution? I think that we have to reach a planning situation where we first define the problem, agree on the problem, then discuss what do we want to achieve. It may be a road, but it may be something different. And the next step is to discuss how to achieve, how to achieve what we agreed that we should achieve. You know what I mean. What is the solution? Mm-hmm. What is the measures we need to do? But this is not the situation that we usually plan today. Anything. But I think that's how we, in long term, should try to reach a situation where we not discuss the solution in the first place, but the problem.
Thank you, Anders. Let's go.
Thank you. Is it? I don't know. Yeah. I would like to comment the issue between. I thought we are going a bit in the wrong direction. There is no problem, I would say, between the ecologists and between the engineers. If a problem is, as it was already mentioned, clearly identified, I mean from ecological point of view, from economical and also from the technical point of view, the solution will be found easily. But there are many, many other issues, and especially in the Kresna case, and these are corruption, these are the political impact, there are other interests. I don't like to list them all now, but we had the solution already in 2008. This was also witnessed and confirmed by the European Commission. These were the NGOs. These were the nature conservation NGOs. These were the local people. And these were the national authorities. We all agreed over the solution to have a tunnel, or generally to have decisions out of the gorge. And there was a letter confirmation from the European Commission, and this was solved. But in the next 1, 2, 3 years, the mafia or the corruption or the company who is interested to build this section of the motorway discovered they can't build a tunnel without involvement of foreign companies, German or I don't know what else, and they have to share the money. And they can't steal most of the money without becoming famous in Europe at least. And then everything started again. And then everything was blamed that the tunnel will bring radiation to the region. We don't know where to put the gravel, excavated gravel, and et cetera, et cetera. And 2008, And now we're, 22, how many years? Yeah, more. We lost only because the mafia groups decided they don't have an interest on that decision, the proper decision, good for the local people with alternative roads, the good for the environment and for the economy. And this kind of points has to be taken into account. And if we don't manage and find ways to effectively deal with that, yeah, we will be, 30 years later, we will be at the same point. Thank you.
Andrei was...
Thank you, Andrei. I would like to tell some things in such difficult condition, international network, professional network as it is IENE can be helpful. The problem in societies like Bulgaria captured in, never mind of origin, in undemocratic type of rule, is that professionalism is the last thing which survives. If you remain professional and you have professional ethics, ensure you are outside of the government, ensure you are outside even of the companies working in the country, you can be, if you are just independent fully from the whole system, for example, in NGO. So professionalism is the most endangered species in authoritarian countries, because Bulgaria is an authoritarian country. It's quasi-democracy. And people are not bad. People want to be professional, they have no chance. And few people agree to sacrifice themselves in such conditions and to be outside of the system. This is the real situation. What can help such independent international network? It's independent, it's professional. It can provide professional opinions. For example, we from years are fighting to get in some way independent professional assessment of, for example, of engineering issues, of price issues, of safety issues. Do you know there is a directive on safety, of road safety from 2008? They didn't apply procedures to compare alternatives in terms of their safety. Obligatory procedure in Article 3 of this directive is not applied at all, not only for this project, for all projects in Bulgaria. But nobody cares. No. It's the level of professional, and for tens of years, for after 2008, we didn't hear from any so-called professional union in Bulgaria, or from any authority, or from any journalist, or from any else outside of us, that this is obligation is not fulfilled. This is the level of professionalism. This is because of the system, not because of the people, as I told you. It's a very, very aggressive system. And really, coming from outside, expertise, professional expertise, independent, has crucial importance in such situations. And for example, Bank Convention helped in this, for example, 2021. Bulgarian authorities attempted everything to do, before that's the democratic government which ruled for 7 months, to prevent on-spot price, because they were afraid of professional opinion. They are afraid of that. So, and this is the power of such associations. Thank you.
As I can see other hands up, I'm obliged to say that these are really big problems, because we're talking about problems of democracy, but also this, I'm wondering, maybe can be part of the workshops tomorrow, because tomorrow we have a lot of bias-on workshops, but one of them is about gaps and barriers, and when we talk about mainstreaming biodiversity in Zarand, and we have such a gaps and such a barriers, I think we have to somehow at least to register them, to record them, and to start to deal with them. And on the other point of view, we have a workshop about the recommendation of the policy matters. So we would like to invite you to the workshop on the recommendation, because, okay, we are now, let's say today, we realize the problems. It's a common, let's say, sense of what we are talking about. And I can spend one more half an hour together with EOGAN about the case of Albania. But here we are not to solve the case of Kresna or the Kresna of Vjosa River or the tomorrow case that will come in the Berne Convention. We are here to see what we have to do from Monday and in proactive level. What is these actions that Berne Convention will have less and less cases in the future? Because with this trend, I'm afraid that Berne Convention and Migratory Convention, that they will not have just one case, but the portfolio, the agenda will be increased in the coming days, the coming years. And this is the point. And somehow this is also the case that we started the cooperation with the Berne Convention, just to see on proactive approach what we have to do. And just again, about our meeting today, we have to see what we have to do in Southeastern Europe. It's a list, it can be a list of recommendations. I don't know if somebody else has somebody different to say or to propose. I think we have to close.
We have an opinion, a feedback from the chat, so I would like to read it out loud and then maybe to conclude. So we have from Georgina the following message: it is necessary to be very patient to go forward. In Spain, some results have been achieved in a bottom-up approach. It is to say engineers and environmental practitioners and technicians working together for a long time to get best practices accepted by all these people are naturally integrated in the current work. So bad political decisions can be modulated by the current good practices being implemented. Thank you, Georgina, for the feedback.
And I can make, let's say, a flexible thought about that, because we have discussed this with colleagues from Bulgaria. One of our recommendations was to organize an IENE workshop in Bulgaria, which it's not will be just of us, but just to invite people from Western Europe to provide solutions. And actually what we did today with Ignatia can be from cases from Netherlands, from other countries, from Sweden, from Ireland. I'm referring countries that I can see represented here. But I think this can be one of the messages that we can send to the political system, because I think we have to start for that, for my personal approach. Because I have been working in NGO in Greece for 20 years, and always we say that, okay, public awareness is good, environmental education is good, but the fruits, my dear Anders, will be delayed. Young children will be in the decision-making process in 30 years. And for that, I just would like to mention the presentation of Marius Nistorescu in the last Latin talks about capacity of the implementation of EIA and CIA. Because this is a big capacity, means that we can do it from Monday. And this is what I was thinking of Monday. We have also a lot of projects in front of us. We have Bison, we have Save Green, and I'm sure that all of us in the next coming, let's say, period of months, we will propose new projects in IDERAC, projects in Horizon, in Life, and then we talk what we have to do with money. Then we increase our, let's say, press on capacity on new tools, because also this can be highlighted, because we have the tool, for example, of wildlife and traffic. This is the Bible on our work. So we have then to see how this can be implemented in practice. But for all those people that it is, let's say, it's participating in this workshop and they have problem or they can listen from online, I think you have to see also the volunteering base. And this is very crucial. Nobody can go just in luck in some place to make a workshop. And this is how IENE is implemented, because Berne Convention, one day send a letter to IENE, and IENE say, because let's say, informed that there is a case that we need an expert in the professional support. And this is how me and Radu was involved in Kresna case. But which means that we need initiative steps. And this is not from somebody from above. It's somebody that is in the country. And this is something that we, again, discuss these days. It's a good global thinking, but we need also local acting. So we as GreenWeb, we promise that we are, and as IENE, as a part of IENE in this planet, in this part of the planet and Europe, we are here and to promise that, okay, we will support any initiative, and as we have agreed in IENE, we have to promote as more as we can all the ideas or the infection that Anders used to say of transport ecology in Eastern and Southern Europe. Radu, you have something to say?
Yes, thank you. Maybe just a small thought, short reaction. I noticed what Nikki said, that it's very important to learn from our mistakes. The problem, I think, is that here, in this part of Europe, we are very afraid to admit that we are doing mistakes. But mistake is not a shame. Everybody is doing mistakes. So let's be normal. Let's accept that we can do good things, bad things. We are not different than Western Europe, but try to import their knowledge, because we don't need to repeat their mistakes they've done, and they admit them. We need to import their good practices and their knowledge. This is not a shame to learn from somebody who faced a problem earlier than you. But it could be quite pity not to see what you can do and to do better, because now we are not as these gentlemen were maybe 15 years ago. We have all this knowledge base available to us. And more than a knowledge base, we have these persons which are so helpful and so willingness to share their experiences. So my thought is that we need to step back a bit to say that this perpetual conflict will not lead us anywhere. Let's invite these gentlemen, these ladies that can share with us their experience and try to be normal. Because, as you said, first we need to acknowledge the problem, but then if you have all the solutions, why we are so, I don't know, so hard on finding a solution that could be adapted to our situation. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Radu. What you said is really important, I think, and I cannot avoid that. This is the reason that the website, the Traffic and Wildlife and Traffic Handbook, is online. Because we decided, and it was the idea of Anders, that this can be updated as soon as possible. Because we are making mistakes, because all the tools need update, need improvements. And this is something that it's true. We are alive machines, and we have to improve ourselves. And to improve ourselves, we have to understand that we make mistakes. Anyway, thank you very much for your participation here. We are here. We are one family. IENE is open family. Please contact us with any kind of concern you have or any kind of proposals and idea, especially from this part of Europe, which is, I think, needs really a strong support, because we are really in front of a big tsunami of infrastructure which is coming the next 10 years. Thank you.